Hello, welcome to another video on scholarship application. My name is Billy Chabalenge. This video I'll be presenting to you about how you can make a successful application for the Commonwealth scholarship. And I must mention at the beginning that the views expressed in this video are my personal views from the experience that I've learned after applying for this scholarship twice and winning it twice, one at Masters in 2018 and the second time I attempted was in 2023 for the PhD, and I was successfully awarded one twice after making the application. So I'm going to be sharing with you on how you can make a successful application for this round that has just opened. And my presentation will be starting from beginning, just to give a brief introduction about what the Commonwealth Scholarship is, especially to those who are new applicant. And this video is suitable for either you're applying for Masters or you're applying for a PhD Commonwealth. I'll give you the objective of this scholarship, what the scholarship will be able to cover if you are awarded, the key changes to this application round, and also the application timeline that you should be able to expect, how you are able to apply, especially that they've launched a new online application portal. So it's very important that you know how to make a successful application. And I'll give you highlights on how scholars are actually selected for them to be final awardees of the scholarship. Then I'll also give you common mistakes that you need to avoid if you want to be a successful applicant for this scholarship. And I'll dwell much more on giving you tips on how you can answer all the essays that have been asked in both the Master's scholarship and the PhD scholarship. So please stay tuned and listen to what I'll be giving you in this video, and then I'll open the floor for all my questions and answers for those who are attending this presentation. All right, so as an introduction, what are the Commonwealth scholarships? So the Commonwealth scholarship are prestigious scholarship, just like other scholarship. They are offered by the UK Foreign Common and Development Office, which is called FCDO, and it is available in different countries. So they offer 3 master's scholarships, 3 PhD scholarship, and 2 fellowships. So in total, there are about 8 different opportunities that you can apply for. As you can see from this screen, you'll be able to see that they have different ones which are categorized for those that are applicable for those who are in low and middle income countries, those that are applicable for least developed countries, and those for high income countries. So these scholarships, they usually open one after the other, and this presentation will be focused on what is currently open, which is the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship, which is the first point, and also the Commonwealth PhD Scholarship for those from least developed and vulnerable states, which is this part. So these are the currently 2 open ones, and you find that because they've reclassified what they call the least developed countries, the number of those countries that are eligible to apply for these scholarships have reduced quite all right. All those who are coming from Commonwealth countries were eligible previous, but this time around the numbers of the countries have been reduced. For example, for masters, only 44 countries are eligible to apply, so you can check if your country is eligible for you to apply for masters. For PhD, it has significantly reduced to only 19 countries which can apply for a PhD. And I must mention that the Commonwealth scholarship are academic in nature, so even as you prepare your application, you need to think academically and in developmental wise, unlike other scholarship where you would want to focus on networking, leadership, and other focus. So for Commonwealth, you need to think of how you are going to contribute to development and also in academic wise. And like I've mentioned, this webinar is suitable for both those who are applying for PhD and who are applying for masters. All right, so what are the objectives of this scholarship? The first one is that the Commonwealth scholarship is meant to contribute to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which we call the SDGs, and they have basically summarized them or narrowed them into what they call themes. So there are 6 themes which relate to science and technology, strengthening global peace and security, strengthening health, strengthening resilience and response, promoting global prosperity, and access to inclusion and opportunity. So those are the 6 themes that summarize the 17 sustainable development goals. And you, if you're coming from Africa, you can also try to link your essays as you are explaining to either the sustainable development goals or to what we call the agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. So there is an agenda under the United African Union of what we want to be at in Africa by 2063. So that is another way of how you can link your developmental essay to that agenda, how you're going to contribute to ensuring that Africa achieves its 2063 agenda in terms of sustainable development. So this is basically the objective of the scholarship, is anchored on the contributing to 6 themes that digs into the 17 sustainable development goals. What are the scholarship? What does it cover? The scholarship cover a number of things once you are awarded. The first thing is that your tuition fee will be fully paid up as you are trying to study, so you do not have to worry about paying any extra fees, whether you are studying for your master's or your PhD. Your tuition fees will be fully covered by the scholarship. The cost of your visa application will be also covered. Once you are awarded, you'll be given a link where you are going to apply, and your application will be free. Everything will be paid for. The cost of your air ticket coming to the UK and going back to your home country will also be covered by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. Your arrival allowance will be paid up. So once you get awarded, you are going to be given an arrival allowance to help you buy some warm clothes in the UK and also settle down before you start your study. So there will be an arrival allowance which is called a warm clothing allowance. For those countries that require TB for you to apply for visa, you'll be given a refund of the TB application that you're going to spend, and this is usually around £75 that they will contribute as a refund to your TB requirement for that visa to be successfully be given. There will be also a study travel grant that is given to you as a master's scholar or as a PhD scholar for you to go and attend various opportunities that the Commonwealth Scholarship will provide. You'll be able to go for workshops, you go for seminars. You can also apply and go and meet the UK Parliament, and also even going to meet the King during the Commonwealth celebration. So there will be various opportunities that will be provided to scholars during their studies, and you can use this grant to go and attend those events that will be provided throughout. All right, the next one is that you are going to receive an upkeep to sustain you throughout your stay and throughout your study, and this comes every quarter as a quarterly stipend. So this will be enough to sustain you for 3 months. So your stipend will not be paid on a monthly basis, but it will come on a quarter, and it's very important that once you are awarded, you plan well so that you are able to sustain yourself, but it is very enough for you to live on in 3 months. The other opportunities that comes with the scholarship is that if you are going to pursue a PhD, you can come with your family, and if you come with your family or you're a single parent, you come with your children, those children will also be given a stipend for about 8 months. So it's very important that you plan well and see if you are going to be able to sustain your spouse, your children that you come with for that period that they will be supported, or after they stop supporting you. So they usually give a stipend to allow you settle for about the first 8 months. For those who are disabled, there will be additional support in disability, and this is why in the application form they would want you to mention if you have any challenges or anything that you need help. This helps them to know more about you and prepare for what kind of help they are going to support you if you have any challenges or disabilities. For PhD, if you do not come with your family to the UK at the middle of your study between month 15 and month 29, you can travel back home, and the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission is going to pay you an air ticket for you to go and visit your home country, which is called the midterm visit. So they will be able to sponsor that visit to your home country only if you've not come with your family. If you are going to receive your spouse or stipend, this one, then you are not going to be able to be given your midterm visit. But if you get the midterm visit, then you do not get the stipend for your children and or your spouse. Field work visit for those who will be undertaking PhD. If you need to go and do data collection outside, for example, in your country or in another country, there will be an amount that will be dedicated and will be agreed with you by the time you are receiving the award, and that will be given to you to enable you successfully carry out your research as a PhD scholar. So that will be another benefit that you are going to receive. And finally, once you get back home after your studies, you have the benefits of joining the alumni group, and there are various opportunities that alumni receive the support. There are usually online seminars and other engagements that alumni are involved in throughout their life after successfully completing their studies in the UK. So these are some of the benefits that you do expect to gain should you be awarded the Commonwealth Masters or PhD scholarship. So now let's move on to the application timeline. So for this time around, the application has opened on the 2nd of September, and it is expected that it is going to close on the 14th of October for both the master's application and the PhD application. So you only have about a month, and it is time that you get working, preparing your application. So from the time that the application are open, all applicants are required to apply through the online portal. It's called the CSE portal. It's a new application portal and a very exciting portal. So all your applications should pass through this online application portal, because the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission will not accept any application that is made outside this portal. So even if you are applying to what we call nominating agents using their own selection process, you need to still apply through this online application portal. And this brings me to the next points, that you cannot apply without considering what we call a nominating agency. So all the Commonwealth scholarships should be able to pass through the what we call a nominating agency. So this can either be a national nominating agency. So these are usually the Minister of Higher Education in your countries, or any other ministry that is assigned by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in your country to oversee the selection process of this. So this is the main route in which you can apply. Then there are other routes that you can apply through, which are through the non-governmental organization and other charitable bodies. Once you log in your application, there will be a point where you need to select your nominator or your nominating agency, and you will see the list of all the nominating agencies that are in your country, and you can apply to as many as you are eligible. The only point that you need to consider is that each nominating agency, they have their own selection criteria, they have their own criteria that they follow for them to successfully nominate you for the scholarship, and therefore it is very important that you consider reading through the information. When do they open? their application and when do they close the application, what is the application process. Others, they require that you complete the online application, you print a hard copy and you take it to their offices for them to read through, and then they will be able to nominate and communicate with the Commonwealth scholarship. Others, they will require that you pay a fee, which is an application fee. Others, they will require that you attend interview for them to successfully select you. So you need to check with your nominator or your nominating agents that you wish to apply for, and ensure that you follow their selection criteria in addition to the criteria that the Commonwealth scholarship has meant. So some of the criteria for the Commonwealth is that you need to have at least a merit, a credit, or a distinction at either undergraduate or at master's for you to qualify for this scholarship. That is the main criteria that is set, because Commonwealth scholarship mainly they are academic, like I've already mentioned. So please do check with your nominating agency what they require. And once you make that application by the 14th of October, that application needs to be submitted through the central portal, which is the CSC portal. And I want to emphasize that please make your application by the 7th of October, because as you go towards the closing date, the system usually becomes overcrowded because everyone is trying to submit, so the system becomes busy. It may end up crashing and you may be affected. So I want to encourage everyone who are applying for this scholarship to ensure that you make your application, submit your application by the 7th as the latest, not the latest, but that should be your deadline yourself. You give yourself a deadline to submit by the 7th of October so that you'll be able to be assured that your application has been successfully submitted. And once the 14th of October passes, your nominating agencies now will take it up. They will read through, they will use their own process to select candidates, and they will be required to inform the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission by December that this is the list of applicants that we've nominated for consideration to be awarded. And once that is done, the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, they will also use their criteria that they've set to ensure, they will use the criteria that they've set to ensure that they sieve through the list that they've received from the different nominators, and by May to June they'll start communicating with those that have been nominated with what we call a notice of award, for them to either accept the scholarship or not to accept the scholarship. And this will come with different conditions, such as you submitting at least 2 references from the referees that you are going to indicate in your application. So now you need to be very careful here, is that during the application process you will be required to upload references. Again, if you are awarded or if you are being listed for awarding, when you receive the notice of your award, you will again be required to resubmit the references. So there is an action or a task point in the new application system where you'll be able to upload these essays, or you'll be required to submit to an officer who is called the program officer, for them to process. And once you submit these references together with an unconditional offer from the university where you want to study, that program officer is now going to use that unconditional offer to communicate with the university that you've selected for your studies and do what we call a placement. And once that placement is agreed upon between the Commonwealth Scholarship and that university, then you are going to receive your final award letter. That is usually between June to July. And once you receive that final award letter, then you can go ahead and start your application for the visa, because you'll be required to upload this document and get other document from the university for you to make a successful visa application. So in a nutshell, this is the timeline that you're going to follow. As you can see, it's a lengthy timeline and it takes about 9 months for you to be officially awarded. So you need to be to be patient as you are waiting for this application, and ensure that you submit all the required information when they are required. And you can also consider applying for other scholarships for you to be busy as you are waiting for your letters of award, or for them to communicate back to you whether you have been successful or you're not successful this time around. All right. So now, what are the key changes to the new application system? So they've launched a new system and it has come with a bit of some changes. The first one, you already know that the application has opened on the 2nd of September and it will be closing on the 14th of September. So that is a new change in this application round. The second change is that you have a new system, and this new system that has been launched, it has new templates that you'll be able to follow. You can find these templates on the website. They've been provided. When you go to the Commonwealth scholarship page, you click on either Masters or PhD, and when you click on how to apply, you'll be able to see that they provided a link to the template, the online template of the application system. And this presentation is actually made based on this template, and you can still use that template, or you can just log in and follow what is in the online application portal. The other change is that this time around, every time you want to log in, you need to pass the authentication. So there is a need for you to either download an app where you are going to authenticate your login using the app, or you can use your email address for authentication every time you are logging in this central portal. So there will be a two-factor authentication system that has been launched this time around. This was not there in the previous online system for you to log in. And this also comes with the new application system, also comes with a new password that is going to be given to you. This is a 22-character password, so you need to keep that email so that you'll be able to refer to it. Sorry, you need to keep that email so that you refer to it every time you want to log in. You need to include that password, and each of your application that you open will be given a different reference number, and you need to ensure that you know the reference number for which nominator or nominating agents that reference number is for. So please keep that email that contains the password so that you are able to log in every time you need to log in and make a change to your application system. The other change that you expect in this new application is that you need to upload the files one at a time this time around. So the other documents will need to be merged and then you upload, and the size of the upload does not change. So all your upload should not be more than 5 megabytes. So you need to ensure that you meet that criteria, otherwise your uploads will not be successful and you end up submitting an incomplete application without you uploading. So please make sure that the file size is meeting the requirement of the online application portal. The other change that you're going to see is that this time around, when you submit your application, you will not be required to make any edits. The previous online application, you could submit, and after you submit, then you make further edits. But this time around, the new system does not allow you to make any edits once you submit your application. So please make sure you proofread everything. There will be a tab where you will be able to see the summary of your application. So read through and ensure that you proofread your work before you finally submit, because you will not have any chance to make any edits. All right. The other change that you are going to see to do with how you navigate through the system. So this is a screenshot from the online system. So this time around, you'll be required to ensure that you save the information before you move on to the next stage. Or if you want to exit, ensure that you click the save and then you exit. or you click the save and continue for you to continue to go to the next section of the application portal. This time around, this is to ensure that you do not lose your data, because if you do not save, then you are going to lose any information that you have entered. And the other thing that they are emphasizing is that you do not need to refresh your browser. If you refresh your browser without saving, then you are going to lose that information and you are actually going to be logged out of the system. Then that means that again you need to log in. You get your password, then you confirm your OTP. After confirming your OTP, then that's when you'll be logged in. So please ensure that before you move on to the next section of the application, you save the information. All right, so let's move on to now how you can make a successful application using the new portal. So for you to make a successful application, how do you apply? The first thing that you need to do is go to the Commonwealth Scholarship website. You can either go to the page that talks about the Commonwealth Master Scholarship or the PhD Scholarship. They will usually take you to the same online application system. So once you are on that page, as you can see in this screenshot, I'm showing the page for the PhD. You click on how to apply. When you click on how to apply, you'll be able to see that the link is provided in this where I've highlighted on the central portal. So you click on the central portal, and then once you click on the central portal, you are going to land on this page which talks about, which will welcome you to the online application portal. And then from here, you can now click on new application, or as a new user. If you're an existing user, you can click on existing user. Otherwise, you click on as a new user. And once you click, you are going to be required to enter your details. And once you enter those details, you will now be required to do the authentication, which I mentioned that it's a two-factor authentication, and you'll receive an OTP in your email. And once you receive that OTP, you include your OTP there, and that will be verified. And once it's done, then you would have successfully registered. Your OTP verification has been registered. So you can either use your email or you can download the app that you'll be using every time to authenticate. If you use the app, it means that every time you want to log in, you should be able to have your phone near you so that you are able to authenticate there and then as you are trying to log in into the system. And once you successfully log in, you will see what it looks like inside. So these are the tabs that you see inside. You see where you can start a new application. You can see the progress of your other application that you can continue if you have already started. You'll see where you need to include task. If there is a task for you to submit references, that is where it will be. And you can also see the submitted application that you've made. So to start a new application, you click on the first tab there, this tab. Once you click on that tab, it's going to take you to this, which will show program, and then you need to select the program. That's why I was saying you can use either the master's page on the Commonwealth Scholarship, or you can use the PhD page. They will bring you to the same thing. So now you need to select which one are you applying for. Are you applying for the master's, or are you applying for the PhD? So you click on which one you are applying for, and once you click on it, then you are going to see this page, and you need to enter your details. So you enter all your details, and this is where now you are going to select who can be your nominator. So after you include your country, the list of eligible nominators or nominating agents in your country will be listed, and then you can select. And once you select that nominating agency, it means that this application will be linked to that nominating agency. Should you wish to make another application to another nominating agency that you are eligible, again, you'll be able to click on the new application, you start another application, and you select the second nominating agency. You can continue selecting. If you are eligible for 5 nominating agencies, then you can make 5 different applications. Each application will be linked to that nominating agency, and it will receive a different reference number. At this stage, you will also be required to pass the eligibility criteria, which I mentioned that they want to ensure that you meet their eligibility. This is the eligibility for Commonwealth that you have. So you need to click yes to confirm that you are eligible depending on this information that is provided. And once you do that, then you'll be able to submit. If you say no, then you will not be eligible for you to progress to do the application. So once you click on the submit, you will now receive a reference number that is attached to that nominating agency that you have selected for this application. And you can now take note of this number because this is the number for that nominating agency. If you apply to another nominating agency, the same process will be followed and you'll be issued another reference number. So once you do that, the next step now is to go inside the online application and complete all the sections of the application. So the application comes with different sections that you are going to see. There are about 12 or so sections. So the first part will be your details section. So you need to include now, complete the details. You're going to see your name will already be there. So this is where now you're going to include other details such as your address, your town, your city, your country, and your mobile number and other requirements. So all your details will be entered there. So you need to enter there. The second part, once you are done, like I mentioned, you click on save and continue. You're going to go to your academic section. So in this academic section, you'll be required to include at least 5 different academic qualifications that you have in their order. So you start with the most current one going to previously. So if you're applying for PhD, you start with your master's, which you recently obtained, and then your undergraduate. If you're applying for masters, you start with your undergraduate and going backwards. So you can enter up to 5 institutions by country, the date when you attended that university, and also you'll be required to enter information related to any previous scholarship that you won. This is very important for them to know if you had any previous scholarship that you won, if you did any studies outside your country. They will also be required you to include that information, especially if you did your studies in the UK. So you can complete that information to give them. And also there will be a section where you need now to include publications. It's very important, as you are going to see in how successful applicants are selected. There is a component where they look at publications, and like I've mentioned, the Commonwealth scholarship is an academic scholarship in nature, and therefore they would want to see if you have made any publication. So you need to include your publication and also the DIO link to the publication that you've made. If you have made any publication collaborating with others, you can still include those. All right, you can still include those publications that you've published in collaboration with others. Any prizes that you've won, were you the best student, were you in leadership position during your universities, all such information will also be required to be included in this section of the application. And the next section will be for you to include your professional background. So in this section, again, you'll be required to enter up to 5 professional experience. You need to include the name of your employers, starting with your most recent employer, and your job title, the dates in which you were employed by that employer, and also the main responsibilities that you had, which is coming from your job descriptions. So that is the information that you are going to enter under this section, and you can enter up to 5 different information. Then the next section will be for the references. So this is the section where now you are going to enter the details of those that you want to be your referee. You're going to enter their names, you're going to enter their job titles, your relationship with them. Are they your previous lecturers? Are they your supervisors at work? And also the email addresses. So they are usually emphasizing that you need to have 3 references. Whether you are applying for a master's or a PhD, you need to include 3 referees, and they are emphasizing that you get at least 1 referee from your current employers. The other referee should be an academic, and the other one, the third one, it can be a professional. It can be a professional from your profession. They can also recommend you. Then, if you had studied in the UK, you are going to be required to submit a 4th reference, and this reference should come from the UK supervisor, someone who supervised you during the time that you were studying in the UK. You will need to include that, otherwise your application will be considered to be ineligible. Then there is a component that will require you to provide references on letterhead from at least 2 of your referees for your application to be considered complete. So if you do not acquire at least 2 references before you submit your application unfortunately will not be qualified to be an eligible application for this award. So you need to ensure that by the time you are submitting your application, you have successfully received at least 2 references from the 3 referees that you are going to include on either letterhead, or they should email that reference to you, and then you take the screenshot of that email and you attach it to the reference so that there is evidence that you actually obtained these references from the referee that you indicated, and they should be able to use the institutional email if you are going to use the institution, if they are going to use an email, a screenshot of an email. However, if it's on an institutional letterhead, then you do not need to get a screenshot of the email where they sent to you. The next section will talk about the developmental impact. So this is the essay that you're going to be writing. You're going to write about developmental impact, and it's related to the Sustainable Development Goals, and it is in 4 parts. So there's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and we are going to delve more into this when I talk about essay writing tips. So I'm going to explain more on how you'll be able to answer all the 4 parts. The next section will talk about your career plan. So again, this part we are going to talk more about how you'll be able to write the essays for your career plan. They are usually in different sections, whether you're applying for PhD or for masters. For masters, you'll be required to list at least 3 courses and 3 universities, and provide a study outline and a study plan in this section. For PhD scholars, you will also be able to provide what they are calling, you need to state your proposed qualification, the subject, the topic that you're going to study, and also listing 3 universities, listing 3 universities, and also a justification of why you've chosen the universities, and also providing a research outline. So we are going to go into details on how to answer all the essays in your career plan. All right, then there is also the next part is for the proposed study, and again in this section there are essays that you need to write for both masters and PhD, and we are going to delve more into it like I've mentioned. The next component will be about your personal statement. Again, there are essays that you need to write about yourself. So there are 2. One is related to your personal development. The other one is on your leadership and your voluntary activities that you need to write about as essays. Again, I've provided guidance on how you'll be able to complete this section or the essays. The next section will be the checklist and confirmation. So we are going to check that you've accepted this, you provided this information, and there's a section that talks about equity and diversity. So you need to provide information for them to know if you are, for example, if you have any disabilities, you have any challenges, that will be the section where you're going to include that information for them to know and see how they can prepare for you should you be awarded. Then the section that follows will be the attachment, and this is what you need to attach. So for all the scholarship, either the master's or the PhD scholarship, you will be required to submit this document, except the last one, which is only applicable to PhD. So before you submit your application, you'll be required to submit your passport. Either you're applying for master's or PhD, a passport should be uploaded. Your transcript, so the transcript again should be merged together. All the results should be able to show, the grades should be able to be seen on your transcripts. Your certificates again will be also supposed to merge all the certificates separately. So certificates and transcripts should be separated and uploaded in the respective upload button. And like I mentioned, you need to comply with the minimum or the maximum size of your PDF file. So they should be in PDF. I recommend PDF, but other formats, I think when you are online, you'll be able to see which formats are compatible for you to submit. If you have any university offer, include or upload that university offer. When we come to the section which talks about how applicants are selected, you will see that having an offer adds an advantage to your application. Then you also be required to include the references. Like I mentioned, these references should be on letterhead. If they are not on letterhead, the people who are giving you those references should be able to email you using their institutional emails. Then you get a screenshot of that email showing that they emailed you the reference, and the email is able to be seen, and you merge them and you upload. Now they are emphasizing that you need to get a reference from your current employer or your most recent employer, from your academic supervisors, those who supervised you during your most recent academic qualification that you already hold. And the third one can come from any referee. Mostly I recommend that you get from your profession. Within your profession, it should be someone who knows you in your professional manner and not a friend or a relative. Then for PhD applicants, you also be required to submit a support statement from a potential supervisor. So by this time, it is supposed to be assumed that you have already contacted a potential UK supervisor, you've agreed with them, and they have agreed that they are going to be your supervisor. So they need to give a comprehensive support statement that yes, you are eligible for the scholarship, yes, you are worth being given the scholarship because you've demonstrated to them through the interviews that they've conducted with you that you'll be able to successfully complete your PhD study. So they should be able to give you a support statement. Without this support statement, if you're applying for the PhD scholarship, then you are not going to be successful, because this is another indicator that they look at when they are successfully awarding PhD applicants, as you are going to see in my next presentation when I talk about how successful applicants are selected. And once you upload all these documents, you save, you click the save and next button, and then you'll be greeted with the summary of your whole application. This is where now you do a review of the whole application that you've made. You do a review, check through, and ensure that there are no spelling errors, there are no mistakes that you've made, and then you'll be able to submit. You can also save a copy for yourself, print a copy for yourself if you want to make a reference. Now again, I want to reiterate that to avoid system glitch, please ensure that you submit your application early, and I recommend that you give yourself a deadline of 7th October to submit, because as you go towards the closing date, everyone is trying to submit, so the system becomes busy, it can crash, it can become slow, and that may affect the way you would want to make your application. So please ensure that you submit well in good time for you to ensure that you do not miss out on this application round, because if you miss out, then it means that you need to wait for another year and make an application next year, which you are only going to take up in 2027. Right, so let's now move on to the next section, which talks about how you are going to be selected. What are they going to consider for them to select you? So there are 4 criteria that they use to award a successful applicant, and this information is readily available on their website. I've just summarized it, and I'm just trying to amplify and explain for you to understand how they'll be able to grade you. The first component, like I've mentioned, is your academic merit. Like I've mentioned, the Commonwealth scholarship is an academic scholarship in nature, so they are going to look at your academic merit, and using your academic merit, they are looking at 2 components. There is what we call the primary indicators and secondary indicators. So the primary indicators, they carry more weight than the secondary indicators. So the primary indicators that they are going to be scoring your application will be looking at your academic results. So the transcript that you're going to submit should, that's why I was emphasizing that they need to show the results, the grade that you obtained, because that is what they are going to use for them to grade your application system. So if you have a distinction, you have a merit, you have a credit, then you qualify for this scholarship, because it is meant for those who have distinction, a merit, or a credit. If you have a silent in your graduation, then unfortunately you are going to score low on this part of the application assessment. So having good academic results gives you as a good score, since this is considered as a primary indicator. So they are going to also look at your transcript, what grade you have. For those who are applying for PhD, they are going to look at your tutor and referee report. So your tutor report, this means basically a support statement that you are going to get from your PhD supervisor, your potential PhD supervisor. And that's why I mentioned that by this time, you should have already found a potential UK supervisor, and they should be able to give you a comprehensive support statement. It's not just a one-point statement that, yes, they've interviewed you, you qualify, and it ends there. As you can see, the Commonwealth scholarship, are considering a tutor report as a primary indicator. So it is highly recommended that you get a comprehensive support statement from your PhD supervisor, the one who is going to supervise you. For the references, again, the references are also considered to be a primary indicator. So ensure that the references, at least 2 references or the 3 references that you're going to include, they are also comprehensive. They have given detailed information on why you qualify for the scholarship, how long they have known you, in what capacity they have known you, and how they think you're going to benefit, or how you're going to contribute once you get awarded. How are you going to contribute to development of your country? So it should be comprehensive references that are explaining on your potential for you to create a meaningful impact. So these are what they are going to consider as the primary indicators. There are secondary indicators that they will also consider. If you have 2 candidates are scoring the same score and then they need to select one, then the secondary indicators will be added on to someone who has those secondary indicators. And these will include academic prizes. So if you have won a prize, you were the best student, you were a reader during your studies, maybe you were a class representative, you are a union president, all those who add on to your academic merit as an indicator, as a secondary indicator for that matter. So that's why you need to include that information. So if you have any other publications that you've made, also those publications becomes a secondary indicator. So someone who do not have publication and someone who has publication, they would definitely go for someone who has publication, especially at PhD level, because you would have demonstrated that you are already engaged in research and you know what it takes to do research, and that's why you have publication. So already you are at an advantage to someone who does not have publication. So that is the first part that they consider. They consider your academic merit. The second component that they are considering is the quality of your research proposal, and this mostly apply to the PhD candidates or PhD applicants. So in your application, you'll be required to include information about what you are going to study, your research proposal. You're going to give an outline of your research, and you're also going to give a detailed research plan. So that plan becomes a primary indicator. So you need to give a comprehensive demonstrating clearly that you've looked at literature, you've identified the gap, you've demonstrated the novelty part of the research that you want to carry out, and that will demonstrate that you have a quality research that will give you a high score when they are looking at the quality of your research proposal. Then the secondary indicators that they are going to consider for those who are applying for PhD will be things like how you have expressed your research proposal. Is it very clear? And does it show that it's feasible research that you are going to carry out? Can it lead to an award of a PhD? If you're going to write in a vague way, or you're going to write propose something that does not demonstrate to be a PhD worth, then you're going to score low. So you need to have a proposal that will demonstrate novelty, that will demonstrate that you've researched, you've understood the requirement of the research proposal for you to score high grades. And also they are going to consider the likelihood of you completing within 3 years. So you shouldn't have a very complex research. Remember, the awards are only for a maximum of 3 years. Quite all right, some universities, they have PhDs that are for 4 years. Others, they would not require you to apply to pay your school fees in your 4th year, like the university that I'm on. The actual study is for 3 years. Then the 4th year, you'll be required to just write and submit your thesis, and then you graduate. You do not need to pay anything in your 4th year, so that is still okay. But otherwise, your proposal should be able to demonstrate that you are able to complete your studies within a period of 3 years, because the scholarship is only valid for the 3 years. So that is what they are going to consider for PhD applicants. The next criteria that they consider for both masters and, for just masters now. So what they are going to consider for masters as primary indicator will be the quality of your study plan. So again, you as a master's applicant, you need to include how you are going to study. There will be a section which I'm going to talk about how to write the essays on the quality of your study plan. So you need to submit a statement that shows what you want to learn, how, to what extent of which the proposal that you've made you want to, and how is it going to help you demonstrate impacts that you're going to make when you go back to your home country. Have you indicated any dissertation or topic that you have in mind that you want to study? So clearly answering that study plan essay will give you high marks, and that is considered as a primary indicator. The secondary indicator for master's student will be you having an existing admission offer. And that's why I insisted that if you already have an offer from a UK university, please upload that offer, because whether it is unconditional or conditional offer, you can still upload it. It will be an added advantage when you are graded and you want to be compared to someone who does not have that secondary indicator. So please include that in your application. And also Be clear in your presentation. That is the reason why I'm going to give you ways in which you can brainstorm and the techniques that you can use to write in a clear and concise manner to ensure that your essays are compelling, your essays are clear, and they are precise for someone to read through and understand. Right. So the final component that they look at in terms of the criteria that they will use to select applicant will be looking at your developmental impact. So they are going to look at the developmental impact essay, which comes into 4 parts. Remember, no one is going to award a scholarship to someone who just want to have selfish gain, get your master's and go and get a high pay rise or whatever you want to do. It is about demonstrating the impact that you are going to create to your community when you go back to your home country. And therefore, they look at primary indicators such as you demonstrating the extent of the need of what you want to study. How is it demonstrating that it is needed? The plan that you've given in your study plan, how does it show, how does it demonstrate to development in your country? That is very important. Demonstrating clearly the outcome that you want to see in your field of study, that will also give you a high score. So it's basically talking about the developmental essay. You need to write in a clear and concise manner so that you are able to demonstrate all these primary indicators that they've included. Secondary indicators again will be you giving highlights to national developments. So you link your studies, you link your skills, how they are related to the developmental issues at your national level, in your region, and global. You also link them to the Commonwealth scholarship 6 themes that I mentioned. You can link them to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them. Actually, there will be a section where you will need to select at least 3 sustainable development goals that are related to what you want to study. You can also link it to, if you're coming from Africa, you can link them to the Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. You can read more and see what the African Union has set a target for the 2063. So those will be the primary indicators that they'll be looking for to select you as a master's or as a PhD candidate, and also the secondary indicators. So the secondary indicators, they just give you an upper hand or an edge in comparison to someone who does not have the secondary indicator. So if you have the primary indicators and you have the secondary indicators, then you are up for the scholarship. And this is what I did when I completed my master's in 2019. I did not have much publication, and that's why I gave myself time from 2019 up to the 2022 when I was applying. I engaged myself into research. I collaborated with other researchers to ensure that I had publication. I had already a distinction at my master's, so that was already gave me a good primary indicator. And by the time I was making a successful application, I knew that I'm going to score high on my academic merit. For my research proposal, I had started researching for supervisors. I started in February, knowing that the application will open in September. And by June, I had 3 supervisors from 3 different universities. They all conducted interviews, and they were all willing to support my studies, and they all gave me a supporting statement. So now imagine me submitting 3 supporting statements from all the 3 universities. Already there, I'm scoring high when it comes to my academic merit. My research proposal was already discussed with my supervisor, so it was easy for me to write this component, and I scored high. And as you're going to see in the points that I'm going to give to you on how you are going to write your developmental impact, these are the same points that I used when I was applying, and this is why I was able to successfully get the PhD and the master's at my first attempt. And if you follow through these points, you are going to be guaranteed to win. So it starts at this stage by you assessing yourself. Do you have the primary indicator in terms of academic wise? If you do not have, then you need to ensure that you have your strong secondary indicators. Quite all right, you may have a weak academic grade, so try to amplify that by ensuring that you meet all the secondary indicators. This will give you an added advantage so that you have you're going to score high. Also prepare adequately on your study plan and your study proposals, and you also follow what I'm going to give you on essay writing on your developmental essay. And this, I can guarantee you that if you follow it, you are definitely going to be awarded. Right. So what common mistakes should you avoid as you are making this application? The first thing I think we all know is that you need to complete your application, you should not complete your application using a mobile phone. So please, I beg of you, do not use your mobile phone to complete the application. Use the computer to navigate through all the stages, and do not use your mobile phone to complete the application. If you use your mobile phone, you are going to make mistakes, and if you make any errors, misspellings, then that will affect your application. So please try by all means to use a computer. Avoid errors and inconsistencies. That's why there is a tab for the summary at the end before you submit. You read through your information, and that will help you before you make your final submission. Choosing wrong courses. Please again choose the correct courses, especially for masters. You need to choose correct courses that are eligible for the scholarship. These should be master's scholarship that are by taught. There is a slide where I've explained which courses you need to select, so please refer to that section as I'll be explaining. It's down. I'm going to explain how you'll be able to select the 3 courses that you can use in your application. The transcript, as you have seen from the selection criteria, is that transcript are primary indicators. So you need to ensure that your transcript are showing the grades, the percentages that you obtained, because that is very important as a primary indicator. If you submit transcript that do not show the grades, then you are disadvantaging yourself. Weak references, like I've mentioned, the weak reference or a weak support statement, this is also a primary indicator. So if you submit weak references that are just talking about your referee knowing you and you are suitable for this scholarship, it ends there, just a 2-sentence, you are guaranteed that you are going to score a very low score in that section, and that may affect your overall selection. So please ensure that you have comprehensive references and comprehensive support statement from the UK supervisor. So the support statement is only applicable for those who are applying for the PhD. Plagiarism, so please avoid copying from others. Even with the information that I'm giving you, there are 2 or 3 essays that I've given examples. Please do not copy the exact way. Use the principles, use the techniques to come up with your own story based on your previous experience. It's very important that you tell your own story. It is your unique story, and you need to do just like that. And you avoid missing out the deadline. Like I've mentioned, I recommend to you that you give yourself a deadline of the 7th of October. So submit your application by the 7th of October. Again, in your essays, you do not need to be vague. You need to be very clear and concise, and you are going to see how you need to be clear and concise by using the techniques that I'm going to highlight to you in this video when we look at the essay writing tips, how you are going to write. This will help you write comparing essays that are logical and clear to follow by the reader. And for PhD, you need to ensure that you have a clear methodology and your study plan is very clear. As you've seen, this is one of the indicators that is considered as a primary indicator. So if your methodology is weak, you are not able to demonstrate exactly how you want to study the gap that you've identified, the challenge that you've identified, then you are going to disadvantage yourself. So these are some of the mistakes that I thought of. Please try to avoid these for you to make a successful application. All right, so now let's go to the main component of this video, which is about essay writing tips. So we are going to go through all the essays, and we are going to start with the first essay, which is applicable to both the master's and the PhD scholars. And this is the developmental impact essay, which is in 4 parts. So before you reach this stage, when you are making an application, you'll be required to select at least one CSC theme. So you need to select the Commonwealth scholarship theme that is related to your field of study. If you are studying a health-related course, you're going to select the strengthening health system theme. Then you also need to select 3 sustainable development goals that are related to what you are going to study. So if, for example, PhD, what you're going to study is related to health, and you think you're going to come and contribute to academics and maybe the industry, then you should be able to select SDG 3, SDG 4, which talks about improving education, and the one that talks about industry, if you are going to be in that stage. So this is how you select the 3 sustainable development goals. You select those that are related to what you are going to include in your developmental essay, what you are going to include in the other essays. It should be able to relate to demonstrate that the skills that you're going to get will be applicable in those 3 sustainable development goals that you are going to select. Right. So this is the question that is asked for the developmental essay. So the Commonwealth scholarship are funded by the FDCO. An important selection criteria is the potential for you to contribute that you are going to make at an international development if you are awarded the scholarship. So provide the developmental impact. In 4 parts, you are going to explain how your proposed study relates to 1, developmental issues at either global, national, or local level. 2, developmental issue connected with the chosen CSC theme. That's why I mentioned that you need to select 1 Commonwealth scholarship theme and the wider sector. Then the second part of the essay is how you intend to apply the new skills or the qualification that you are going to get. The third part of the developmental essay will require you to explain what you expect to change in the developmental terms, including the outcomes that you want to achieve, the time frame of how you want to implement that, and who you think is going to benefit. And the fourth part is how the impact of your work is going to be measured. So we are going to go through how to answer each of these 4 parts of this developmental essay question. So starting with the first one, how do you answer how your study is related to global, the national, and the local level, and the CSC theme? So the first thing that you need to do is that you need to identify a need in your community. Winning a scholarship is about demonstrating that you want to solve a problem that exists in your community. So you need to find what is the challenge that exists in your community, in your country, in your region. For example, if you're applying for PhD, you would see that maybe in your field of study, you do not have lecturers who are qualified in engineering or electrical engineering, and you want to pursue a PhD in electrical engineering so that you can come and contribute to that sector. So that is a challenge, that is a need that you've already identified. The same thing applies to masters. It could be that you want to study a component that is lessly considered in your field of study. So identify a challenge or a need in your community or in your field of study. So once you identify that need, then you need to link that need or the problem to your chosen course. If you are applying for masters, you link it to the chosen courses. this is the problem, and this is why you want to study this course, because it's going to help you solve this problem based on the skill sets that you are going to gain. Even for PhD, because you've seen this gap, you've seen this problem in the community. By you studying, you're going to contribute to reducing that problem. So you need to demonstrate that you've identified the need and you've related that need to your study that you want to undertake. And therefore, you need to show that indeed that problem exists by using relatable data. At this point, you can use percentages, numbers to demonstrate that there is indeed a problem. You can use different metrics. For example, here I've given an example of something related to my field, where the issue of counterfeit medicine is a global challenge, especially in Africa. And in 2017, the World Health Organization actually found that 1 in 10 medicines in Africa are considered to be counterfeits. That is a very big problem, and you can try and see how your studies will be able to help contribute to reducing this challenge of counterfeit medicine. So it depends on the field of study. You need to identify the need in your field of study. Okay, and once you have identified that need, you've demonstrated that indeed it is an existing problem, then now you need to relate it to your course, like I've mentioned, and also relate it to the wider sector. How is it related to the Sustainable Development Goal? How is it related to the Commonwealth Scholarship theme? How is it related to the 2063 agenda in Africa? And how you think you are going to solve. So this is how you are going to answer this part. Only what problem you've identified and how is it related to the development and the CSA theme. And then you conclude that essay by relating it with your passion on how you think you are going to be able to solve that identified problem. So this is how you'll be able to understand, so not understand, but clearly write this part of the essay. Identify a problem, show that the problem indeed exists, relate it to your course, and also demonstrate that it is a problem in your nation, in your region, or in a wider sector, and how you would want to contribute. How is it related to the United Nations SDGs or the CSC themes? Once you do that, then you'll be able to answer the first part clearly. The second part requires you to demonstrate how you intend to apply your new skills and qualifications. So in your first essay, you've built a case that there is this problem, you want to study ABC, and it will help you look at this big picture, which is the problem. Now, how do you intend to use the skills? So now here it becomes easy, because now you are building on your first part. You are going to mention the problem that you've already identified in your part 1 of the essay. Then you link that problem to what you are going to gain now in that course. What are the modules that are related to helping you solve the problem? What research do you want to do that is going to help you solve the problem? And then be specific on the skills. So here now you are pinpointing on the new skills and the qualifications on how they will be able to help you contribute to solving that problem. So you need to mention the areas in which you are going to apply those skills. Are you going to apply those skills in terms of research that is going to contribute to reducing the problem? Is it through lecturing or training others? Is it through policy advocacy? Are you going to be able to advocate for better policies that will be able to be changed and then help solve the problem? Is it related to you collaborating with others at that high level, which will bring about change? So you need to include such things as you are writing the second part of the essay. When it comes to the third part of the essays, the expected change, the outcome, time frame, and who is going to benefit. How do you answer this part? The first thing is that you think in terms of developmental impact and not personal gain. Like I have mentioned, winning a scholarship is not about your selfish gain because you want to have that master's, you want to have that PhD so that you can get a well-paying job. It is about demonstrating the impact that you're going to create in your community. So think in terms of developmental ways. What do you think is going to change if you contribute to solving the problem that you've identified in your first part? What outcomes do you think the outcomes that are related to your field of study? So you've studied this one, you're going to contribute to solving that problem. So what do you expect is going to change? How is it going to change? So you specify when you think it's going to change. Is it within your 3 years? Is it 5 years of you working on that area of the problem? So you need to specify the time frame and also give who is going to benefit both directly and indirectly. If you do policy advocacy, that is going to benefit a lot of people both directly and indirectly. So you should be able to specify exactly who you think are going to benefit indirectly and are going to benefit directly from you trying to contribute to solving that problem that you've identified. And how do you write this essay? You can use a technique that I call the SAT technique. So as you are writing your essay, you need to be specific of the change that you want, the outcome that you want, and who is going to benefit. So be specific on the change that you want to contribute to, the outcome that you think will be, or the results of you contributing, and also who is going to benefit. So you need to be very specific as you are writing. The second part is that whatever you are writing that you want to achieve or you expect it to change, it should be attainable. It shouldn't be something out of this world. It should be realistic. It should be able to be attained, and you need to demonstrate how the problem is going to be solved. And finally, you need to include a time frame to it. When do you think that is going to be achieved? As you demonstrate this in your essay, you are guaranteed that your essay has answered all the parts of this question, and you are going to be awarded the scholarship, or you are going to score high in this section. The fourth part, which is the final part of this essay question, is how impact you are going to create is going to be measured. Now this is very simple because you've given the problem, you've identified who is going to benefit, you've shown how your skills you are going to gain from your studies are going to help contribute to this problem. Now here you are now just giving how do you expect to demonstrate the results or the impact of your studies. So this one, you link your answers in part 1 to 3, what you have done, what you've already answered in your part 1 to 3. So you link that. Once you link that, then you use or you link your responses to different tools or indices that can use to measure the impact in your field. Different fields use different indices. So some of the tools that you can use would be like the reports that WHO and World Bank usually release. For example, in poverty, they will release indices that are related to poverty. So are you trying to contribute to poverty? Do you think once the WHO or the World Health, the World Bank make that report in that year, when you think you are going to contribute to that problem, the statistics are going to change? So look at global level statistics, or what can help you to demonstrate how your country will be in a better position at a global level. You can look at national statistics. Like in my country, we have the National Statistic Agency, who releases data on a monthly basis. There is another organization, I think they release statistics on a food basket on a monthly basis. So if you're going to contribute to reducing hunger in your country, you can refer to such organization or their statistics, that those statistics are going to improve and demonstrate that you've contributing to reducing hunger in that sector. There are also national action plan, which have different indicators. You can use that. You can link the impact to demonstrate how it will be measured by you conducting a research, conducting a survey, conducting interviews, the policies that are going to change. It could be related to you doing a focus group, or you can do case studies or testimonials. So all these are some of the things that you can consider to demonstrate how your impact is going to be measured by either numbers or whatever means. So these are some of the tools or indices that you can use to demonstrate how your impact can be measured. So once we include this, then you would have holistically answered this question. All right. Now let's move on to the next essay question, which is about career plan essay. And this again is applicable to both the master's and the PhD application. And the question goes like, the selection panel, we want to understand how your proposed study will assist you in your career. Okay, so now you need to describe the skills you expect to gain from the scholarship and your career plan once you return back home. So the first part, we want to see what are your objectives during your studies, what is your career plan in your first 5 years, and then the long-term career plan. So we're going to go step by step. We'll start with the objectives, then we'll look at what you need to include in your 5-year plan and in your long-term plan. So to successfully answer this question, you need to, on the objective during your studies, you need to include at least 5 objectives that you would want to achieve when you are studying. Do you want to complete? Do you want to graduate with a distinction if you are doing a master's, or do you want to have 3 publications if you are going to do a PhD? Do you want to attend conferences to gain the skills that you need? Do you want to have meaningful networking with the professors at your university? So you include any of the objectives that you would want to achieve when you are studying in the UK. They could both be academic or extracurricular activities, such as visiting a place that you would want to visit that you've heard about, which is in the UK. Like, for example, if you're a football fan, maybe you would want to visit one of these well-known football clubs and watch the football match live. So all those could be what you would include. But since this scholarship is more academic inclined, I would advise that you start with listing out your first academic objective before you go to your extracurricular objectives. Okay? Then when it comes to your 5-year plan and your long-term plan, you need to write in a clear and concise manner, and you can use what we call the SMART technique as you are writing. So by writing through the SMART technique, what do we mean? We mean that you need to be specific. So what do you want to do in your 5-year plan, and what do you want to do in your long-term plan? Where do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? So you need to be very specific on what you want to do and demonstrate that you're going to apply these skills in your midterm plan, in your immediate plan, in your first 5-year plan, and also in your long-term plan. Whatever you are planning to do should be able to be measured. And that's why that previous question was asking you how your goals are going to be measured. So you need to clearly demonstrate how they will be able to be measurable. The other thing is that as you are explaining your 5-year plan or your long-term plan, it should be something that is achievable or attainable. Even as you dream big, it should be something that is achievable, and it should be realistic. Your goal should be realistic. It shouldn't be something out of this world as you are explaining. So ensure that you are specific, you are able to measure it, it's able to be achieved, it's realistic. You can't say that you want to be the president by 2027 when you are going to be, you are just going to be, you would have just graduated by then. If you are going to be studying a master's, if you're going to be studying a PhD, you are going to still be doing your PhD. So that is not being realistic, and even attainable, because you cannot attain that since you'll be doing your studies, or you would have just completed your studies. So you need to explain in a clear and concise manner something that is achievable and realistic, and include the time when you think you're going to achieve the goal that you want to achieve. So within 5 years, you can segment your essay from 0 to 2 years, what you want to do in your first 2 years, then 3 to 5 years what you want to do again in that period. And once you use this SMART technique, you apply it, you would have answered this question very clearly. Okay, and your essay should be linked to the skills that you are going to gain from your studies. This helps to demonstrate that you are carrying out the skills, especially for those who are applying, answering for both. In your first 5-year plan, you need to demonstrate how you are going to apply some of the skills that you would have gained. Even in your long-term plan, demonstrate that you're building on the skills from the time that you studied, and you're taking them in your long-term career. All right. So now the next essay question talks about studying in the UK. But before we look at studying in the UK, especially for master's students, it's important that you look at the courses that you're going to select. How do you select the courses that are eligible for the Commonwealth scholarship? So I've just included this slide to help you know about which courses are eligible for the scholarship for you to consider as you are making your application. So the first thing for master's studies is that your course should be full-time. If you're applying for part-time studies, then this scholarship will not be suitable for that course. You can consider the other scholarship like the Commonwealth distance scholarship if you want to study on distance. For this scholarship, you need to select a full-time master's course because you'll be required to be in the UK full-time for 1 year. The course that you're going to select should be able to start between August and October 2026. If you select a course that starts in January 2027 or January 2026, that course will not be eligible. So select a course that starts between August and October 2026. Those are the courses that are eligible, and they should be full-time. They should be masters by thought. Masters by research are not eligible courses for this scholarship. So if you select a masters by research, then you are not going to be awarded this scholarship. You need to apply for only masters by thought. And by thought, it means that you're going to sit in class for that full 1 year and you're going to be taught. You quite all right may do a bit of your dissertation or research, but it will only be for 3 years, which is different from masters by research where you'll be required to do the research throughout. Okay, again, the other thing you should consider on the courses that they should be based in the UK. Of course, this scholarship is only attainable in the UK, and they should be at 3 universities, or they can be on the same university, but there should be 3 different courses that are related. Again, when you select these courses, they should be able to demonstrate the skills that you have written in your developmental essay question. That's why it's important that you link these essays. If the essays are not linked to the courses and the skills you are going to gain that you are selecting, then you are not worth being sponsored, because you are talking of giving an impact in one way which is parallel from the courses that you've selected. So you should select courses that are going to give you the skill set related to what you've explained in your developmental essay impact. Again, the length of the courses that you're going to select, they should be between 9 months to 12 months in length. If you select a course that is less than 9 months, those will usually be considered as they will be considered more like an advanced diploma, and they will not be eligible for the scholarship. Courses again which are masters, but the length of study is more than 12 months, those again will not be eligible. So select only courses that are full-time. They start in August to October, they are by thought, and they are at least 12 months in length. For PhD applicants, you need to select, or your proposed study should be for 3 years. You shouldn't propose to study for 5 years, because the scholarship will only sponsor you for 3 years. Quite all right, there are PhD studies that go for 4 years. You can select that one, provided that the 4th year will just be used for you to write and the university does not require you to pay fees in your 4th year. Like the study that I'm doing, I'm not required to pay anything in my 4th year, and that's why I was awarded, because the scholarship is for 3 years, and after 3 years I can go back to my country, continue in my 4th year, writing, and graduate. So if that is the case, you can also consider those courses. Otherwise, consider only courses that are at least 3 years for your PhD studies. Right. And you need to demonstrate any contact with the university. This is very key. As you have seen in the selection criteria, there is a component where they look at if you have any academic offer, especially for master's students. If you have any offer from your academic, from the 3 universities, or from any of the 3 universities that you have indicated in the scholarship application. For PhD, by you having contact with your potential supervisor and them giving you that support statement, that will already demonstrate that you have contact with that supervisor. You can still go ahead if you have already applied to the university for a PhD admission and they've given you some sort of offer. You can still include that as an offer. It will demonstrate contact with the UK university. All right, let's move on to the next essay. So this essay is about your study proposal question, and this is now only applicable to masters. So I've segmented those that are applicable to masters and those that are applicable to PhD only. So for masters, when it comes to a study proposal, the question reads, provide a short outline of your proposed study or research. This should be written to an audience that do not have a prior knowledge of the subject and must not be overly technical. An abbreviation should be able to be explained. So how do you answer this essay question? First, you start with a big picture in mind. You need to introduce the broader issue or your field. Introduce your field. What do you want to study? Is it public health? You start with a big picture of the course that you want to study, and then you include the title of your proposed dissertation if you have any in mind. If you don't have, this is the time for you to brainstorm and just have something roughly that you can include in this essay. Remember, it is an outline, so you're not going into details, you are just highlighting, you're outlining, and then you explain how your studies is relevant to developmental. So this again, you can link it to what you've already included in your developmental essay, but in an outline manner. So you are just outlining what you want to study, how you hope that you are going to conduct your research. So if you have identified a dissertation, how do you want to conduct a research? Are you thinking of going to do an interview kind of research, but is it something that you can do within your masters, or maybe you're going to carry out an experiment in the lab? You think in those lines on how you are going to conduct the research that you want to conduct. Will it be a questionnaire that you can post online and people answer? And try to be as simple as clear without using the jargons, and be mindful of the word count. So you do not need to be over the word count that is given for each essay. So this is how you'll be able to answer this question. So you're just giving an outline. The next question will require you now to give a detailed study plan. So the previous question, you're just giving an outline. Now this one, you're giving a detailed study plan. The question states, provide a detailed study plan. The selection panel wants to understand why you have selected your proposed courses and universities. So this is very key. Why you've selected the proposed courses and the universities. You should remember that although the selection panel will be well informed, they are not likely to be specialists in your subject. So describe why the proposed courses and the universities, and also what you are looking for, and any dissertation topic that you have. So already you have an outline that you've provided in your previous essay. So now in this essay, you are just giving more detail to that outline. So the first thing that you can do, start by brainstorming before you answer this essay question. So are your chosen courses able to demonstrate that they are connected to your previous studies and your career aspirations? So this also helps you in answering your career question, the one that was talking about your study plan question. And once you do that, then look at the skill set and the knowledge in the modules that you have. Which one do you have? Are they meeting the gaps that you have in your previous studies? Or are they giving you more knowledge that you can apply to solve the problem that you would have written in your developmental essay? So you look at the skill set that you are going to obtain in your modules, and also other added advantages of studying at that university. Does that university maybe offer a sort of attachment to an industry as you are studying, which you think that experience will be helpful to you? So such things should be included. And then you also connect it to your study objectives. You stated that you want to obtain a distinction, or you want to have that. So that should also should come out as you are explaining this university, and also connect it to the theme of study for the Commonwealth. So you need to dedicate time to do brainstorming and see how you can connect your chosen course to these components. And once you do your brainstorming, the next thing is to write now the essay. So what do you consider when writing? You rank your courses. Which one do you think you should be your first course? Should they award you? They are going to consider your first course. However, the Commonwealth Scholarship, they are at liberty for them to select any among your 3 courses. They have the final decision on which course they want you to go for. It actually happened in this application round for those guys who are going to the UK, who have started going to the UK this month. One of my mentees was actually communicated to by the Commonwealth Scholarship that they feel that her second choice was more suitable than the first choice, and they recommended that she goes for her second choice, and they were able to change. So they have the final say on which course you are going to go, but you should be able to rank them with your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice. So once you do that, then you dedicate a paragraph to responding to the question for each course and university. You can use the technique that I call the idea technique. So you need to mention exactly which university you are interested in, and what course you are interested in, and why you are interested in. You need to demonstrate how they are going to help you develop your skills, the knowledge, or contribute to the gap in knowledge that you have. How are they helping you to be a better person once you gain those skills? So what skills are you going to gain from the studies? Give examples of brief modules that are going to help you gain those studies, those skills that you need, or the research that you want to carry out for you to gain the skills that you need at that university. And also aim to link the gap that you are going to identify to either your professional background or your future career plan. And once you write that essay in that manner, it will be able to flow and easy for the reader to remember. And you also need to ensure that you highlight why the UK attracts to you. Is it because the master's is just 1 year and you can only get studies for 1 year in the UK? Other countries, they offer 2 years or 3 years for you to get a master's. Is that the reason why the UK attracts you? Is it because of the university ranking and the professor at that university? That's why you're attracted to that university. So you should be able to include also why the UK attracts you to study for your master's. And once everything is included, you would have clearly answered this question. All right. So now Moving on to the study plan for the PhD. What I was talking about was for the master's. Now we move on for PhD candidate. So for PhD candidate, again, you need to include your proposed study. And before you include your proposed study, you need to ensure that you would have already discussed with your potential supervisor at this point before you write this essay. And why you want to do that? Because you will be required to indicate your proposed qualification. So you should have discussed what qualification you're going to gain at the end of your PhD study, and you are going to indicate that qualification. You're going to indicate the subject of your study. Is it pharmacy, is it chemistry, or whatever subject that you are studying in. You'll be required to indicate your proposed topic or title, which you would have already discussed with your potential UK supervisor. Then you are going to list the proposed university in the priority, just like for masters. You list them with your first university, the second university, and the third university of your choice. Indicate the contact address of your potential supervisors that you think will be your supervisors at those universities. At this point, you would have already contacted and talked to them. If you have not done that already at this point, it might be too late for you, but you can still try research, contact the supervisors and see if they are able to, if they are willing to support you before the deadline. If they are not able to support you before the deadline, and you do not have anyone at the moment, then you are already on a disadvantage. You are already 40% less likely to be awarded the scholarship, and I would advise that you start preparing for next year by identifying potential supervisor, because this is a critical component of your PhD application. Then when answering a component of the question that is asked on why you have chosen these three institutions, you should consider how these institutions you have selected, they are related to academic and research alignment, how the study that you want to do, how is it related to the university that you've selected. You shouldn't just write generally because it's prestigious. No, this is the PhD that you want to obtain, so you need to be very clear and concise. How is it related to the research that you want to do? Do they have the facilities that will enable you complete the study? Does it fit in your proposed research? What focus? Each institution in terms of research, they have different focus. So that is what you can look at in terms of also long-term, because a PhD is a long-term career, and you should be able to demonstrate how you think the university or the supervisor that you've selected can help you fit in terms of your long-term academic qualification or professional relevance. What kind of training is the university providing? Do they have extra activities? Maybe they do support PhD students to do other trainings, or maybe they offer additional requirements for you to like tutor master students or undergraduate students, like in my case. So that will be an added advantage that you can include while you are selecting the course. You also look at other opportunities that are there for you to collaborate with others. Does the university that you are selecting or the supervisor, are they working on their own, or they are working in a team or in a group? Nowadays, research is not like the way it was done in the old by the Albert Einstein, where you have someone doing everything and then they get the Nobel Prize on their own. There is collaboration in research. So are you going to join a team of researchers for you to get support, or are you going to be working with one person? So all these should be considered as you are trying to respond to why you've chosen the universities. Right. The second part of the question for your proposed study requires you as a PhD student to provide a short outline of your proposed study or research of your first choice. So you're just looking at your first choice. So this should be written again to the audience that does not have a prior knowledge of your subject and should not be overly technical. So how do you answer this question? You can use the technique which I call the prime technique as you are answering this question. And remember, you are just giving an outline, you are not going into details. So you need to outline the problem that you want to research on, outline your research aim or research question, give the importance of your topic or your study, why is it important, what method, outline the method that you want to use in simple terms, and also what impact you think is going to create, or the expected outcome, the results that your research will give. So this is how you would be able to outline your proposed research. The next question is now going into details. So the previous question was talking about outline. Now here you are going into detail, giving a detailed of your study plan. So provide a detailed plan of your proposed research. You should remember that although the selection panel will be well informed, they are not likely to be specialists in your subject. It is important that you reference and provide links to related literature. Remember, provide reference and links to relevant literature. So describe clearly your research question, a brief reference of the key literatures, the research design and methodology, your potential significance of the study to your discipline and your developmental policy. So how do you answer this question? The first thing you see that if you have already discussed your proposal with your supervisor, you just basically get that proposal that you have discussed with your potential UK supervisor and summarize it, and you include it in your in this essay. Otherwise, if you do not have any proposal, then you follow these steps. You can use what I call the clear technique. So this is a technique that is going to help you write this essay in a concise manner. So you need to give the context of the problem that you want to research on, give the background of the problem that you want to research on, and then reference literature. So include literature, at least 7 to 10 citation, and you can include in-text citation. We are not going to give a list of references. You are going to just give in-text citation and demonstrate that there is a gap in knowledge. PhD is all about demonstrating that a gap in knowledge exists, and your research is going to fill in that gap, or you're going to demonstrate the novelty of your research by filling in the gap. So you need to demonstrate that what already exists in the problem, what others are doing, they are doing ABCD. However, no one has tried C, and this is why you want to research using C. And this brings in now to you inquiring on your research objectives or your research question, what you want to research on based on the gap that you've identified in literature that you've reviewed. And once you give the research question or your objectives, now you talk about the approach that you take to study. What is the methodology that you are going to use? Are you going to use a mixed method? Are you going to just use qualitative? Are you going to use quantitative? Are you going to use ethnographic methods or other different methods of studies? So clearly indicate in the methodology. Remember, one of the key information that I mentioned, which is used when selecting, in your selecting criteria for you to be awarded the PhD as a primary indicator, is having a clear methodology. So you need to ensure that you have a clear methodology that demonstrates exactly how you are going to do the study that you've trying to talk about or you've identified. And you should also be able to demonstrate the relevance of your study to highlight the novel aspect. That is where the PhD lies in. It all lies in finding a gap on the novel angle, which has been less studied on or no one has studied in, and you want now to study so that you can fill the gap. That is how you'll be able to demonstrate the relevance of your study. And once you do that, you would have answered this essay question clearly. So please ensure that your methodology is very clear, as it is going to demonstrate if you are able to complete your studies within the 3 years, if you are going to demonstrate to them that you are going to add something new to the body of knowledge. It all lies in giving a clear context, clear literature which is showing what already exists and what gap is there, and you reference that. And you also give a clear research question, objectives, and the approach that you're going to take in your study, and highlight the novel angle of your research. And then you also need to demonstrate that your contribution or your study is going to contribute to the theme that you've selected and also to your career plan. Once you say that in this essay, then you would have answered it very clear. Right, so we go back to the common essay, which is applicable again to either the master's application or the PhD application. And this time around, this essay question is talking about your personal statement or the personal statement essay. So this one comes in two parts. There is one that talks about personal statement and the other one talking about leadership and voluntary. So we start with the personal statement. And the question is that the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission encouraged applications from candidates who have faced significant disadvantage or personal barriers to higher education. And that's why I was saying that the Commonwealth Scholarship is academically inclined. So they are looking for someone who has personal being disadvantages in terms of higher education or underpin representative in their field of study or work. So please summarize the way in which your personal background has encouraged you to want to make an impact in your home country. You may wish to highlight areas where you have already made significant contribution, including overcoming your personal or your community barrier in accessing higher education or within your field. So the question is very clear, and you need to demonstrate how you have been disadvantaged or how your community has been disadvantaged, what you've already done, and how you are going to contribute. So how do you answer this question? The first part is start by brainstorming from the wealth of experience that you have in your previous experiences. So reflect on your personal background. When you are reflecting, you should consider your social, your culture, and your geographical background. Are you a first generation university student, meaning that from your family no other person has been able to reach the university level? You are the first one because of how you are disadvantaged. Are you coming from a conflict affected country or area? Are there any gender-based limitation that you faced? Maybe you are disabled or something like that. All those things can be included in this section. Then you also consider any underpinning representative, what I call underrepresentative identity in your field. Is it dominated by one gender, or is there an issue of ethnicity, or is it in the rulers, or are there any political instabilities and your studies have been impacted based on these political instabilities? So all that can be considered as you are brainstorming on what you are going to include in the essays. You can also consider other barriers that are very specific that you've faced, so you should be able to be specific on those barriers and your response that you've undertaken to these barriers. So you brainstorm on how have you been able to respond. For example, if you are a first generation university student, no one has been able to go to the university. How were you able to navigate? What motivated you to navigate and be the first person in your family to reach the university? And then you link it to how you've been able to make a difference. Okay, so after brainstorming, So after brainstorming, it's now time to draft the essay. The first thing, as you are drafting the essay, you can use another technique that I'm introducing to you. This will help you that you write in a clear and concise manner. It's called the bridge technique. So what you need to do, you need to first highlight the barrier. So state specifically what personal barrier or community barrier was faced by you. Is it poverty? Is it the cultural norm? Is it lack of school? So specify the actual barrier that you faced or the barrier that is facing your community. And then show how relevant that barrier is to your community or to yourself. After demonstrating how that barrier has been relevant or very impactful, you now bring in on what action or initiative that you've undertaken so far. Remember, the question is highlighting that you should be able to demonstrate in what way you've already tried to overcome that barrier. So the initiative, what action have you already taken to overcome that barrier, or how have you worked around that barrier? And then bring out the difference that you've made. What are the results after overcoming that barrier? What has been the results that you have achieved, and what have you learned? What is the growth? What have you learned from that experience of overcoming that barrier, or the passion that you have in changing for the barrier that exists in the community? If you go if you are writing about a barrier in your community and not about your personal barrier. And finally, empowerment, how you gaining the scholarship is going to help you to contribute further in terms of overcoming that barrier or contributing to the development of your community if you are talking about the community barrier. So this is how you'll be able to use the bridge technique to apply. So let's look at a brief example of how you'd use this bridge technique to write the essay. So this is how we'd write the essay. In my community, most girls drops out after primary school due to early marriage expectation. So this is the barrier. Okay, how is it relevant? I was among few who stayed in school, facing social pressure and lack of support. So this is why it is relevant, because you are also a girl and you faced this social pressure of early marriages. Okay, so what initiative did you bring in? I organized weekend tutoring sessions for young girls and held awareness talks with parents. So again, the initiative is focusing on trying to address the problem of early marriages by organizing weekend tutoring sessions for girls who are affected, and also awareness to their parents who are marrying these young girls early. And what was the development that came about by you doing this initiative? So 2 girls I mentored are now attending secondary school, and one of them as a top student. So that is a new development that is there. And what is the growth that came from this experience? So the experience strengthened my belief in education as a tool for breaking poverty cycle. So there is no early marriages. So that is the growth. And then what do you expect that a Commonwealth scholarship is going to give you? So through the Commonwealth scholarship, you aim to develop an inclusive education policy and return to implement them in your rural areas. So this is how you'll be able to put the essay together using the bridge technique as you are explaining about your personal statement. So this personal statement is including aspect of your personal part and also the community aspect. However, you do not need to write it the way I've given. This is just an example. It needs to be expanded. You can expand it and ensure that you use at least 90% of the word limit that is given for this essay. You can either focus on your personal statement that is personal to you, or a personal statement that is related to solving a problem in your community, or you can blend your personal experience and contributing to community, like in this example that I've given. Right. The next essay talks about voluntary and leadership, and this essay requires you to summarize the way in which you have been engaged in voluntary activities and the opportunities that you've had to demonstrate leadership. So the first point again is to do brainstorming always before you write the essay. So start by creating a table. In this table, you're just brainstorming, so you're going to create a table with different columns. You're going to list all the jobs that you've done in your previously, the voluntary activities that you've done, and any community activities that you've done, whether at church or within your community, even in your profession. You can include that voluntary activities. Then list what role you were able to perform in each of the jobs that you've listed, the voluntary activities or your community activities or engagement that you've done. And then what were the tasks that you did, or your job description. You also list them out. And what you want to do at this point is to list everything that is related to any role of leadership or any role of volunteering. And once you write, then now the next step is to select the best 2 examples from what you've listed. And this should enable you to select the best 2, one that relates to leadership and one that relates to you being a volunteer. And once you selecting the 2 best examples from the list that you would have created, you need to consider examples. When you write, they should be able to demonstrate that they are going to drive a change in the community or in your organization. They should be able to improve the outcome, or they should be able to demonstrate the impact that you're going to create. They should be able to solve a specific challenge, especially the challenge that you would have talked about in your developmental essay or in any of the previous essays. And that is very important because you are going to be linking to what you've already written about, and it helps the reader to remember that, okay, this person is writing about leadership and voluntary, and they are mentioning what they've already written in the other essay. So they'll be able to remember and follow through logically from what you've written in the other essays. You can also use what I call the true technique for you to select the best 2 examples. So the example that you select, it should be a true example. You're not lying. It's a true example reflecting on your previous leadership or voluntary activity. It should be a relevant example that can flow with the essays that you've already written. So it's a relevant example, and it is a unique example. It's talking about your own experience in your job description that you did. It should also give a tangible results or impact. It should be able to demonstrate from all the list that you've made, which of your leadership experience gives you the most impact that you created, and which of the voluntary activities give you the most impact that you've created from that activities that you undertook. And those are the ones that you are going to select. And once you select, your third step would now to draft the essay. So how do you draft the essay? You use the STAR technique to write the essay. So you start by giving the actual situation when you read or when you did the voluntary, and this should account for at least 5% of the total word count. You need to give the task, what was supposed to be done to solve the problem or the situation, and what you really did yourself. Those are the actions that you undertook, and this should carry the majority of the essay. You should be able to demonstrate you did A, B, C, D. It should carry the majority of your essay writing component, and I'm recommending about 50% of the total word count. And finally, you need to show the results of what came out from your leadership experience or from your voluntary experience. And once you write that, you are going to demonstrate that you've written an essay that is worth gaining a scholarship. Of course, in your results, you need to ensure that you include numbers, you include percentages, and this helps to quantify the impact or the results that you are going to create. And I'm also encouraging you to use leadership words of leadership vocabularies, such as you led, you guided, you persuaded, you oversaw, you delegated, you inspired, you instituted. These demonstrate leadership, and you should use such words as you are writing this essay. Okay, while drafting the essay, you use other writing techniques apart from the STAR technique that I have explained. If you think that the STAR technique is not suitable for you, you can use other writing techniques. You can use what I call the CAR approach. So you give the context of your leadership or your networking essay, and then you give the actions that you did in that experience, and then what were the results of your leadership or your voluntary activity. So you can use this technique if the STAR technique is not suitable for you. You can also use the PAR approach or PAR technique. So this starts with the problem. You clearly give the problem that was existing and you needed to solve as a leader, or you volunteered to contribute to solving, what action you did as a leader or as a volunteer, and the results of that voluntary or your leadership role. So as you are writing the essay, you need to have an introductory statement, and you need to have a conclusion statement on how you think the scholarship is going to realize your goal or your dream once you are awarded. How do you reduce word count? With writing essays, you are likely to find that you are going to write more words than it is required. So you can use different techniques to try and reduce your word count. Some of the techniques that I usually encourage my mentees to use is, one, you need to use active verbs and avoid adverbs. This helps to be more clear and also to ensure that you do not write long sentences. It will help you reduce only your word count. You can also use synonyms. By using synonyms, you also be able to reduce that word count. Right, so this is now a brief example of how you would be able to write your leadership and voluntary essay using the STAR technique. So I'm just giving you a brief example, but it still requires more improvement and ensuring that you meet at least 90% of the essay word count that is required. So this is an example. So what was the situation? So the situation was that during my second year at university, I noticed that many students in a nearby school, in a nearby rural school, lacked access to basic career guidance. So what was the task? The task that needed to be done there was to have a volunteer who can organize a mentorship program concerning university students with higher school learning to bridge that gap. So you as a leader or as a volunteer, what action did you take? I recruited a team of 15 volunteers, created a mentorship, that is another action, a mentorship curriculum, and also coordinated weekly virtual session. Again, coordinated, that's a good word to include because that shows that it's a leadership word that you can include. So coordinated weekly virtual session on academic planning, scholarship, and soft skills. And what was the result of this action that you take? So over 3 months, we mentored 100 plus students, and feedback showed that 70% increase in student confidence in pursuing higher education, and 10 students successfully applied for local scholarship. So this shows the actual impact, and this impact has been quantified in terms of the percentage there and also in terms of number. However, I must mention that you should avoid, in essay writing, you shouldn't use words like 100 plus. You should write formally and not include 100 plus. Okay, so that is how you'll be able to write, by including the percentages, the numbers are included to demonstrate the impact that you've done. Okay, so this is how you'll be able to write this essay on leadership and voluntary, whether you are a master's applicant or you are a PhD applicant, and ensure that it is expanded and you use at least 90% of the word count that is given for this essay. And finally, before I conclude this presentation and open it for question, there are useful resources that you can refer to on the Commonwealth website. There is a section that talks about application guidance and advice. If you want a link, you can refer to the link that I've provided to the PDF. I've created a presentation, a PDF format for this presentation. There are links that can take you to the specific component of the Commonwealth Scholarship website, where you're going to find information that talks about the application guide, advance and guidance, and feedback to unsuccessful applicants. The Commonwealth Scholarship does not provide individual feedback on those who are not successful, but they have compiled a list of the most common issues that they find in the applications. So it's important that you refer to that section of the website. You'll find the link also in the PDF that I've provided, and you'll be able to read through and understand what exactly those who are not successful lacked in their application. This will help you not to make the same mistakes that others made in their application. There is also a section that talks about the reference requirements. So this is the information that you can give to your referees to read and understand before they give you the references. Remember, we said the references are a good indicator. During the selection criteria, they consider them as primary indicator. So if you have weak references, you are going to be disadvantaged. Give this information to your referees so that they are able to give good written references to enable you be awarded or score a high mark when your references are considered during the scoring criteria or the selection criteria. Then there is also a section that talks about the general conditions of the scholarship, which you need to read before you come to the UK should you be awarded. There is also a section on the website that talks about the frequently asked questions. So there could be some question that you have and you want to be addressed. When you go to the section on the website, it will be able to give you some of the answers that you would want to expect. So these are just the common frequently asked questions. And finally, this presentation, I've summarized it in a PDF, and I've provided the link in the description to my Google Drive. You can follow that description and you'll be able to get a copy of the presentation. Please like this video and also share this video so that others can also benefit from this video. And thank you very much for your attention, and I'm now going to invite questions from those who are attending online. I'm open to question at this point of the time. Thank you.